From the moment the sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of the Naval Training Center, the day felt strangely heavy, as if something important was waiting to happen. The humming of floor buffers echoed down the halls, the crisp scent of disinfectant floated in the air, and a quiet man pushing a cleaning cart walked with a posture that didn't quite match his job. Even before anyone spoke to him, he carried the aura of someone who had lived entire lifetimes in silence. And that silence finally shattered the moment the SEAL Admiral stopped, laughed casually, and asked the janitor what his old military call sign used to be, never expecting the answer that made his heart almost stop beating. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that reveal the true value of a human soul, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Chronicles right now. It truly helps keep stories like this alive. The man pushing the cart was named Rylan Shaw, a 39-year-old single father whose steady eyes told stories too deep for most people to understand. He kept his black hair trimmed short out of habit, wore a faded blue janitorial uniform, and moved with quiet precision as he cleaned the expansive hallway. Every now and then, sunlight hit his face just right, revealing faint old scars across his cheek and forehead, scars no one at the base ever dared to ask about. He had been working at the training center for 9 months, long enough for every new cadet to recognize him, but not long enough for anyone to truly know him. He kept to himself, showed up early, left late, and always did more than required without complaint. Most people assumed he was just another hard-working civilian trying to raise a child alone after a rough patch in life. And in a way, that assumption wasn't entirely wrong. But no one could imagine the chapters of the past Rylan had quietly buried under his calm demeanor, watching the man from across the hall. That morning was Admiral Jackson Creed, a decorated SEAL leader known for his bold personality, intimidating presence, and sharp instincts. He had icy blue eyes, a strong build, and a confidence that filled the room before he even walked into it. He was briefing a group of officers when he spotted Rylan waxing the floors with a focus that seemed too deliberate, too disciplined, too precise for someone in a civilian job. And so, after finishing his briefing, Admiral Creed walked over, half joking, half curious, and tossed out a casual teasing question that would change everything. What was the janitor's old call sign, since he moved like a man who'd been trained rather than a man who learned on the job? Rylan didn't look up immediately. His voice came out steady, soft, and cold enough to cut through air. He simply said Lone Eagle. That was it, 2 quiet words. But they were enough to drain the color from the Admiral's face, because Admiral Creed knew that name. Every SEAL leader did, but only from classified files. Before the Admiral could gather himself, Rylan was already moving down the hallway again, focusing on his task as if he hadn't just spoken a name that military records treated almost like a legend. For the first time in many years, Admiral Creed felt the shock of uncertainty, the kind that pierced straight through a man trained never to freeze. Rylan Shaw, Lone Eagle, the impossible to track, impossible to break reconnaissance specialist who had vanished without a trace 8 years earlier. The man who had achieved the highest solo survival test score in modern naval history. The ghost who had disappeared after the tragic death of his wife, leaving behind rumors but no confirmed sightings. And now he was quietly mopping the floors in a training center, wearing a uniform 2 ranks below the potential he once had. But he had a reason. He always had a reason. Rylan's 10-year-old daughter Aislinn, a bright-eyed girl with curly brown hair and a gentle smile, was his whole world. She had lost her mother young and relied on her father more than most children her age. Rylan, broken by grief yet driven by love, had walked away from his old life for her. He wanted stability, safety, and a world where she didn't wake up terrified of losing the last parent she had left. So he chose the quiet path, the unseen life, the job that kept him nearby while she attended the small school on base. He had no interest in admiration or recognition, only in protecting his daughter from the dangers of the life he once lived. But destiny has its way of calling soldiers back, sometimes without asking permission. As Admiral Creed watched Rylan disappear around the corner, stunned and speechless, curiosity burned through him. He spent the next few hours doing quiet background checks, scanning through old records, and piecing together the fragments of Ryland's history. The deeper he went into the classified reports, the more he realized the immense weight the quiet janitor carried alone. Ryland had endured a devastating ambush during his final mission years ago. He had lost members of his team, fought desperately to save the civilians trapped near the border, and sustained severe injuries, yet still managed to get everyone else out alive. But when he returned home, he found out his wife had collapsed from a sudden illness while he was deployed. By the time he reached the hospital, she was gone, and the world he once fought so fiercely for lost all meaning. Admiral Creed finally understood why Lone Eagle had flown away. Yet none of those files prepared him for what happened that afternoon. And before we close, please leave a heartfelt comment sharing one thing you learned from Ryland's journey. Ryland Shaw never returned to active duty, not because he lacked skill or bravery, but because he had discovered a mission far more meaningful, being present for his daughter, guiding the next generation with quiet wisdom, and proving that a person's worth is not measured by their uniform, but by the kindness and courage they choose every day. And Admiral Creed, humbled by fate's unexpected lesson, carried a deeper respect for the man who walked past him each morning, no longer unseen, but forever unforgettable. In the golden daylight of that ordinary afternoon, a single father who swept floors reminded an entire base what true heroism looks like: silent, steady, selfless, and profoundly human.